You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Ladies and germs, it's Dr. J here. Evan, what's going on?
How's it going?
Dude, nice little Monday here. Nice little Monday, kind of getting off a nice weekend. We were supposed to go on the boat this Saturday. Again, Lake Austin's been closed down for a month because of the torrential rains down here in Austin. And it rained on Saturday when we were supposed to go out. So haven't been on the water for a while, so I'm itching to get back out this weekend, hopefully.
Wow, yeah, and I've been mostly with this baby, so we've gone out to the park a couple times, but it's been pretty brutal here. We've had like heat advisories and all of that, so it's been a hot start to the summer so far.
Wow. Well, I imagine everything's probably going pretty good on the fatherhood side?
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling.
That's great. Good for you. Excited.
Thanks.
Well, what's on your agenda? Any great stories for the week here with patients you want to mention at all?
Well, stories are, it seems like whether it's, maybe this is a biased observation because more people have symptoms, but parasites are popping up just left and right.
Yeah.
And it just seems like I was seeing them once a week and then twice a week, and then now it's like 3, 4, 5 times a week. And blasto is the number one most common.
I saw about 4 or 5 people last week with blasto as well. I'm also seeing a lot of people coming back, and maybe you've seen this too, but there's this hyperplasia phenomenon, which we'll talk about in a second, where we're treating patients, let's say for H. pylori. We treat H. pylori, we eradicate it, symptoms improve, and then we retest, and new infection now comes to the surface.
How do you explain that?
Well, what I typically tell patients is the gut typically heals from the inside out, right? It heals from the inner gut lining to the outer gut wall. So infections that are burrowed in deeper into the gut wall may not show up, and infections that are closer to the gut surface where the food lies may show up first on these stool tests. So typically, let's say H. pylori comes back, or let's say blasto comes back, it's possible that on retest, those infections are gone, and because the gut heals from inside into the inner wall, that those infections can now come to the surface because they're hiding in the crypts of lubricants in the small intestine, that they can now come to the surface, and now we can register them. And it makes sense too, because if someone's got like 4 or 5 infections, they may get 20, 25% better after each infection's eradicated. So we got to just kind of keep an eye on that. And I always like to manage patients' expectations and let them know, hey, we may have a new infection on this retest. Just kind of keep that in mind. And that could be another reason why you're not 100% better yet, if that is the case.
Yeah, I actually saw that. I think that was 3 or 4 weeks ago, a lady that had H. pylori, and on the retest it was gone, but then she had blasto. And it was like, whoa, have you done anything new? Have you eaten new food? So you necessarily don't have to have new exposures. It's already in there. It's just not registering.
Yeah, the infection probably just wasn't coming to the surface enough. There wasn't enough of that antigen, or if we're using DNA, enough of the PCR to register. So you just got to keep that in mind. And what test came up with that?
That was 401H.
So you're catching a lot more. And that's a stool antigen, so you know that's there 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, typically a second round of herbs is going to be needed. And I typically tell people that have had chronic gut issues, more than a year or so, they probably are going to need multiple rounds, at least 2 rounds of herbals, if not more, based on what infections come back.
Right.
But I think a lot of patients get freaked out when we retest and there's a new infection because they're like, did I just get it? And a lot of times that's probably not the case. It's probably something that was always there and just finally registered on the radar screen.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
on that note, I know we were talking about seeing people with these infections having malabsorption and seeing lower amino acid levels. And we use the organic acid test, or the OAT, to kind of get a window into these protein levels. Now, we can use clinical signs and symptoms like, dry skin, that can mean protein or fat, hair issues. Common is fingernail issues. So if we see vertical ridging in the fingernails, that can easily mean protein issues, low hydrochloric acid, malabsorption of amino acids. So that's a good clinical sign. On top of that, we use the organic acid test. Well, we'll see certain markers such as aconitase, cisaconitase. We'll see L-lactate. We'll see pyroglutamate. We'll see other amino acids like brain amino acids like picolinate or low vanilmandelate or 5-hydroxyindoloacetate. I know these are all big, $64,000 words, so to speak, but these are markers we see on these tests. Now, you don't have to know what they are. You just have to know that they correlate to protein and amino acids. And then the question is, what do we do next?
Right. So the body can make all but 9 of about 20 amino acids. So 9 amino acids are essential because you can only get those through diet. So people have probably heard of them. That's the histidines, the leucines, the isoleucines, the tryptophan, valines, etc.
Proline.
And people can supplement with those, or you can supplement with even more, just a broad spectrum. And so today you mentioned, hey, let's talk about protein powders because that's a really good source for people to get all of their amino acids, assuming it's a good quality protein source. And if you have a parasite infection or some type of compromised digestion, then this is going to be the easy way to get these nutrients in because we're not having to rely on your good digestion. Eventually, hopefully the gut will be healthy enough and we're supporting you with enzymes and HCl if you can tolerate it, to where you're actually going to be using your bison, your lamb, your elk, whatever meats you like. Those are my favorites. And you can turn those into amino acids. But with me, I had the vertical ridges and you saw my nails.
Yep.
And that's when I showed up with those infections. So I've been there, done that in terms of seeing actually how this stuff affects you. And it is real. And there's a palpable change when you start working through things and you start feeling the dimmer switch come back on, meaning that those amino acids are actually doing something.
100%. And by the way, have you retested your infections yet?
I haven't. I have the 401H here, and I was waiting for the GI map to arrive, which it just did. So
Great.
I'm going to be doing the 401, and then we'll do the GI map at the same time and see what happens. So I'll let you know.
I love it. I'm waiting on bated breath, Evan.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's kind of go over the philosophy of amino acids and protein powders or extra protein support. So obviously we want diet to be number one, right? That's kind of the big one. We want to make sure we're eating good, high quality proteins, fats, the right amount of carbohydrates, typically a combination of non-starchy veg, fruits and roots, and then good seasonings or minerals on top of that. Now, when people have gut issues, they may have malabsorption or compromised ability to break down these proteins into amino acids that can be absorbed. So imagine like you get this big pearl necklace, right? Your body has to basically break each pearl off. That's an amino acid. Each pearl is an amino acid. So imagine ripping through and breaking each pearl off that necklace. And imagine like if your fingers are really sore, if you have blisters all over them, it's going to be really tough to break each pearl off that necklace. So we want to make sure we add in hydrochloric acid and enzymes because that will aid our ability in cleaving and breaking these amino acids down, number one. So we want to maximize that. But we know because the digestive system is impaired, we can't just eat more protein. That's just giving the body more work a lot of times. So we do the best that we can on the diet side to provide the protein. But then next is hydrochloric acid. Once we've checked that off our list, adding in either free-form amino acids and or protein powder can be helpful because it's already broken down or hydrolyzed into its constituents so the body can just take it in and doesn't have to go through all the effort. It's like someone coming by with scissors and breaking the pearl necklace up for you versus you having to break it up with your hands.
Yeah, that's a great way to visualize that. There's actually an article that I was just looking at this morning about Obama, and people may think that digestion is just an issue that happens if you have infections or if you have some type of like bacterial overgrowth. But I mean, even emotional stress, like being the president, I would assume that's incredibly stressful. This article, it was from USA Today. it was when Obama went to the doctor because he had a sore throat. And I'll send it to you, Justin. And they ended up doing a CT scan on him because they thought there was some type of inflammation going on. Or it actually was a CAT scan. It showed up normal. And so then the doctor ended up just putting him on Nexium.
Oh, gosh.
And said that his sore throat was likely due to acid reflux.
It just shows everyone listening here, just because you're the president or some like famous movie star or whatever, doesn't mean you have access to the most cutting edge of healthcare. He probably has the most cutting edge healthcare in the conventional medical world, which is great. Awesome for trauma and acute injuries, not the best for lifelong chronic degenerative type of illnesses. That's where functional medicine really takes the cake on that. But it just shows you, even someone at that highest level may still not get the care he needs.
Yep, absolutely. So I sent you one article. That wasn't the exact one I saw, but it was just talking about how his doctor gave him a clean bill of health, and then he just gave him a Nexium prescription. So here we are back to the PPIs. If people haven't listened to that episode, I think we dominated that conversation. What was that, last week?
Yeah, we dominated it last week, and it'll be, we're about a month ahead of everyone listening live. So I got a lot of good podcasts in store, but it just shows you, right? We went over the vicious downward spiral of these proton pump inhibitors, because then you have malabsorption of protein, which then may affect mood because your neurotransmitters are made from protein. And then we have minerals that are really important for relaxation. Well, then there's your prescription for a Xanax or a benzodiazepine. Also, that may also increase your chance of osteoporosis. So there's your Boniva prescription. And then it may also affect your cholesterol and fats for your hormone precursors, and there's your low libido and your Viagra or your Cialis. So you can see how this downward cycle really goes fast. And then we know that each medication you're on has side effects, and those side effects may cause the need for more medication. So you can see it's pretty scary, the world that you live in, when you just get thrown on whack-a-mole drugs for symptoms. And we know like there are side effects, but really when it comes to anything, there are just effects, right? There are effects. Some are good, some are bad. And in the drug world, you can see that, doesn't take much. Just listen to a drug commercial. You got the auctioneer coming out, listing out all the side effects. So we know there's a good chance that if you're on one of these meds, a side effect will pop up and you'll be playing the whack-a-mole kind of thing to help knock it back down.
Yeah, so the point, and actually this piggybacks really nice. The point we're trying to make here is that if you are starting with a compromised gut, whether it is infection, bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, candida, yeast problem, or you are on a PPI, for example, or you have a history of a PPI, then your amino acids are not going to be absorbing. You're not going to be taking those from your food. And those amino acids are helpful they're the building blocks of protein. So if you're trying to build muscle, good luck. If you're trying to have a healthy, stable mood and you're trying to create neurotransmitters, that's going to be difficult too. So really, this is a perfect conversation. If you didn't listen to the PPI episode, that really does piggyback on this, because at the root of everything, we're big bags of fluids and hormones and amino acids that make up, they pretty much run the show, would you say?
100%. And the more stress we're in, the more catabolic we get. And what catabolism is, or being catabolic, is breaking down faster than we're building up. Now, when we start breaking down, though, guess what tissue the body expends first?
It's going to be muscle tissue.
The muscle. It's the most metabolically active compound. It's the hardest to maintain, right? So it's like if you're trying to go and you're trying to save money, the first thing you may go to is you may knock down the AC. You may knock it up from 75 to 78, because that's the first easiest place to save money. Well, it's like that with your body. Your body's going to try to save energy, and the first place it will go when it's stressed, it will knock up amino acids and it will break it down into glucose to run your metabolic pathways via sugar. So not the best situation to be in. So number one, we want to get the sympathetic stress kind of dialed in, which, we're not going to go into it. We've done 100 episodes. I've done hundreds of videos on this stuff. Get the sympathetics in check with diet, a healthy paleo template, sleep, stabilizing blood sugar, a healthy amount of movement, good clean water, and avoiding pesticides and chemicals in your food, and managing your emotions, whether it's with EFT or meditation or visualization or gratitude. Manage your emotions from that perspective. Once you have that dialed in, that's where functional medicine just really does a great job in kind of sprouting out and getting to solutions. So on that note, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you're saying here, once again, first thing first is stress. That's the undertone for all of the episodes. So the healthy adrenals you kind of alluded to, nourishing that parasympathetic mode that you're really designed for. You're really designed to be sitting under some trees by some running water with the sound of birds around you pretty much every day, all day,
Yeah.
until you decide, okay, it's time to go hunt a bison, and then you go hunt for however long, and then you eat, and then you're back with your tribe again. So anytime that you're stuck in the modern world and you're doing something that doesn't feel right, it's probably a modern activity. Maybe you're not built for it, but if you can change your response to that, I'm sitting in traffic, this sucks, or, oh, I'm sitting in traffic, I'm just going to listen to this podcast instead. Maybe that's how you can pull yourself out of the sympathetic and try to at least somewhat turn that parasympathetic balance back on.
And obviously that'll be our podcast they should be listening to, right?
Hopefully so.
Of course.
At least one of them in the queue.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely in the queue. So on that note, you really touched upon some good things. So like after this podcast, I'm going to go do a video. It's on my board, ready to go. I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes, and then I got 4 or 5 hours of patience. So like I'm trying to practice, what I preach as well. It's tough. You got to schedule it in. You got to literally put it on your calendar. It gets really hard. If you have your schedule, your to-do list, and those things aren't on there, they always tend to get sacrificed.
Yep.
Right?
You and I are definitely calendar Nazis. Every time we schedule these shows together, we put them on both of our calendars. We have to.
We get it done. Exactly.
Yep.
And so kind of crossing off our list, I'm going to just roll through the 5 hours, and I've actually graduated to 6 hours, and you'll see why, because it really dovetails with the opening of our podcast, and I'll touch upon that in one sec. But the first hour is the remove, right? Removing all the bad foods, and that's all the bad lifestyle things as well. So when we say remove, that also means adding in the good stuff, just so we're clear on that. Second is replacing enzymes and acids and bile salts if need be to help us break down these foods. Third is repairing the gut lining, whether it's with collagen or amino acids, and healing, soothing antimicrobial herbs like aloe or slippery elm, and or things like adrenal support. Number 4 is removing the infection. We do it in that order because it's stressful removing the infection, so we got to prepare the body to get the infection removed. 5 is re-inoculating with probiotics. And guess what 6 is?
I'm going to go ahead and say retest.
Yes.
Retreat.
Wow. Excellent.
Retest.
Yes, you get like 3 paleo brownie points for that one.
Great.
I think a couple of weeks back you had some paleo demerits, and now we'll give you some paleo
I don't remember.
brownie points.
You did. You gave me one demerit for some reason. I don't remember what it was for.
I forget. It was a long time ago. But 6R retest. Because of that crypt hyperplasia phenomenon, because of the fact that we may have a new infection come to the surface. And anyone that's been, let's say, gut issues longer than a year plus, remember, a lot of these infections are opportunistic. So once you have one and your immune system's more compromised and you have lower hydrochloric acid levels, that's going to open you up to getting exposed to other infections down the road, whether it's at a restaurant or just, sketchy water or just intimacy with the partner. All those things are possible vectors. Pets. I got my dog over here in my lap, Butter, and she likes to try to lick, and I try to keep that away from my face all the time. And if she gets my hands and stuff, I go wash them off, because pets can be a really strong vector for infections too.
Yeah, and I thought about that too, playing with a big slobbery toy. You're playing with your slobbery dog toy, and let's say you have that saliva on your hand, and then you go touch your face, your nose, your mouth, etc. Seems like an easy way to transfer something as well.
Yeah, we allow no kisses in our household. I mean, it's like nice. You kind of like, oh man, cute dog, but nope, can't do it.
Yep.
So on that note, those are all the things that can lead up to these infections and then create all the malabsorption. So dovetailing, we kind of went off a little bit on a tangent, but we're back, folks. Amino acids. So with all these infections going on and the stress, that can drive our amino acid levels lower from a functional perspective. We talked about some clinical signs and symptoms: hair, skin, nails. That's easy. Next is going to be some of these functional tests, like the organic acid test. I mentioned some of the markers. I'll spare you again. And then the next step is, what do we do from a protein perspective? Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so we could break down some of the options for people depending on how severe their issues are. We may be able to do like a good grass-fed whey protein. I know you like the beef protein. We've talked about like an organic pea protein. The one you have to stay away from, I saw the other day, believe this or not, this just sounds disgusting. It sounds like mixing a grass-fed burger and a McDonald's burger. It was a whey protein and soy protein blend.
Oh my gosh.
Why? Why? So stay away from soy. There's a lot of genetically modified soy. It's one of the most highly genetically modified crops. Don't quote me exactly, but I believe it's something like 97% of the soy in the U.S. is GMO.
That's terrible.
if it's not organic soy, you can assume that it is genetically modified. There's some issues with estrogen in soy, and we could go on. What else would you like to say against soy and soy
Well,
protein?
yeah, I know soy definitely is 90% of it's genetically modified. Not a big fan of that because with genetic modification comes extra exposure to Roundup or glyphosate. Okay, Roundup is a herbicide or pesticide, and it works by chelating and pulling out the minerals and essentially starving the plants so they die. So if you have this Roundup resistant gene, which these soybeans are like Roundup ready, meaning they're resistant to Roundup, that means they can get exposed to it and they're okay. So Roundup goes in and it hugs away all of the nutrients. Now think about it, right? If we're hugging away all these nutrients and killing all the plants around that, don't you think at some level it's going to impair nutrient absorption to some of these plants? And the research does conclude with that.
Yep. There was a study that I'm not sure if they did the study, if they just linked to it, the Organic Consumers Association. They just looked at, I want to say it was like 20,000 people. I'll see if I can pull it up. But 93% of people had glyphosate in their body. Yeah. I probably have some in my body. I guarantee I do. Yeah. Even though I do my best to eat 100% organic and be aware of my food sources, I mean, I guarantee there's remnants in there.
My neighbor just sprayed their yard with Roundup to kill all the weeds. And they have a little infant, and I was like, oh no. But then it's like, what am I going to say? It's already been done, right?
I saw the neighbor across the street from me spraying her driveway in flip-flops. Just the big sprayer all over her feet.
My God.
It's insane.
Yeah, people know not what they do.
And it's found in breast milk, too. There was another Organic Consumer Association article that they linked showing that the toxic herbicide was found in breast milk. And it says this finding contradicts industry claims that glyphosate does not accumulate in breast tissue. It definitely does. Unfortunately, breast milk contains a lot of things that are not good.
Yeah, and the problem with a lot of these GMOs, there's not really any long-term human studies. I think the longest is 3 or 4 weeks. So, these things accumulate. And then again, you got to also factor in you cook these things too. That denatures and changes. And some research showing it makes it even more powerful when you cook them. So you got to be careful. Extra pesticide exposure. The pesticides themselves can be estrogenic, which again is not good because estrogen tends to cause things to grow like tumors, right? And there's some studies showing the opposite. Again, you're not going to see a bunch of studies on it because you got a multi-billion-dollar business that's highly, lobbying the government officials. So you're not going to get, transparency in that issue. So I think until you have really long-term studies going on there and you have some independent people looking at it, you're better to be safe than sorry and go with old foods. Because I always tell my patients this, old foods don't cause new disease. Okay. Old foods don't. So you can always you'd rather be safe than sorry and go with the old foods that have hundreds of thousands of year history of being safe.
Yep.
So again, the soy protein, a couple other pieces on. I'll kind of nerd out a little bit. It's lower in amino acids as well, lower in sulfur amino acids like methionine and lysine compared to like a whey protein. So lower in sulfur amino acids. It also does have phytoestrogens in it, which for guys, with gynecomastia and extra, the man boobs, the moobs, if you will, not going to be the best. Women that have female hormone issues and they're cycling may not be the best either because most women are already estrogen dominant. Some women who are menopausal go for it because it can help relieve hot flashes, but you get a lot of negative things. There are better ways to get the estrogens in there in a bioidentical type of way that's more controlled and cleaner than going to the soy.
Yep, and I just sent you a picture. It was of the glyphosate use in the United States, and you can just see the U.S. map. It's in dark brown. If people go to your show notes and look on justinhealth.com, they go to this podcast, they'll see it. But most of the United States, in terms of like the Midwest, not Colorado, at least not Western Colorado, Utah, etc., but it's the desert Southwest. You can't grow stuff out there anyway, hardly, except for California. And if you look in California, Justin, look over there where you see that fertile area.
Middle.
Yeah, the middle California area.
Central Valley. Probably by Fresno, up by Bakersfield and such.
Yeah, it's all 88% or greater use. So basically this says, oh no, that's 88 pounds per square mile rather of glyphosate.
Wow.
So then you look at the chart. There's also a chart here starting at 1992 and going up. The latest statistic they have was up to 2013. Glyphosate use is still on the rise. And right now, we're up to a total of about 250 million pounds. I suppose this is 250 million pounds per year of glyphosate. So you got corn, soybeans, wheat, cotton, vegetables, fruits, rice, orchard and grapes, alfalfa, pasture, and hay, and other crops. So this all ties into that amino acid piece, though, because if you're eating non-organic anything, you can assume that glyphosate has been sprayed on that food. Therefore, you're not actually going to be absorbing the amino acid. So even though you may be free and clear of infections, this still goes to show that we really have to stay away from the chemicals. And I think I talked with you about that on an episode when I went to the farmer's market, and I was talking with some of these people about their strawberries, and they said, Evan, just because you're at the farmer's market doesn't mean that it's clean. These farmers are still spraying stuff. Unless it is certified organic, you better assume that they have sprayed something on it, because it's tough to keep the bugs off the strawberries. I got some growing in the backyard. Every time it's ready to pick, I wake up the next day and it's gone. Something eats it every time. I have it covered in cages and everything. Those little,
Wow.
I think it's a bird or something flying through the little holes in the fence.
Kind of using his little pecker and getting it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I hear you on that one. But with soy, though, the biggest thing with soy is it's also goitrogenic. So what goitrogenic means? It's... Oh, cut that one. Woo! All right. I'm dying here, man. I'm dying seeing you on Skype. You're as red as a freaking cherry right now.
Oh, I'm keeping it in on my show.
Woo! All right, we'll have to cut that one. Take two.
I'm keeping it on my show.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, good. I'll keep it on my show. I'll keep the little breakdown at the end, though. All right. Let's get real. Van Dam. So, like I was saying, soy is also goitrogenic, meaning it blocks iodine uptake, and we know we need healthy iodine levels for good thyroid function. I mean, we don't want to go hyper on the iodine, because that can drive potential Hashimoto's, but we don't want to be blocking it with foods that would block natural iodine uptake. So we have that negative piece. Also, the trypsin inhibitor piece, where it blocks these proteolytic enzymes from helping to break down protein. And if you have digestion issues, you don't want to be taking in more compounds that are going to be causing more digestive issues in the end.
Yeah, and people that are avoiding meat, if you're going vegetarian or vegan, you will see these people eating soy protein and soy replacements. So I don't want to make this all about soy, but I did really want to hit that hard on the whole soy piece, because it is so common and so many people are eating it and it's just not healthy. So really, I broke down like the grass-fed whey, the beef protein, etc. These are good things, and these are good nutritional insurance policies. That's the best way I refer to them.
I agree. My next layer up is going to be the whey protein. We want to make sure, obviously, that's grass-fed, because the grass kind of goes in and it helps make higher quality amino acids. Because, again, the building blocks are really important. Pardon my French, but you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? So you got to have good quality nutrients in there to provide the building blocks. So we got to make sure those building blocks are present so we have the quality. Same thing with whey protein. We want to make sure it's grass-fed. We want to make sure it's organic, right? We're not feeding it a whole bunch of hormones and antibiotics. That way we have the best chance. Now, the thing with whey is there's a tiny bit of lactose in there, about 1%. There's also a tiny bit of casein, maybe less than 1%. So I typically don't recommend it to my autoimmune patients off the bat. Once their autoimmune condition is stabilized and their symptoms are more stabilized, then we'll add some whey, and or I'll recommend some whey, because whey is great for sulfur amino acids. Very high in NAC, very high in a lot of these glutathione precursors, methionine, cysteine. Really, really good for glutathione. So I'd love it. Plus, I'm biased. Whey definitely blends up the best. It tastes the best out of all the proteins out there. I love it. So I use whey and beef, and I'll use pea, and I typically use collagen as a foundation to all of my shakes. We'll talk about that in a minute. I love it because you can mix it in, and it just makes the amino acid profile better for the ligaments and for the gut. So I recommend whey for all my patients that are non-autoimmune or more stabilized and healthy.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you consider whey dairy or not really, because there is such a minimal amount of lactose available?
I mean, again, for my autoimmune patients, I would, but for the most part, you don't have the casein in there, very, very small amount. You don't have the lactose in there. If you do a very small amount, right, we're talking 1% less. So those are the two detrimental components of dairy, is the lactose and the casein. So if you pull that out, you got this great product called whey, which is awesome for all the amino acids and great glutathione. So I like it. I wouldn't necessarily consider it whey if you were on the healthier side. Typically, people can tolerate it.
Yeah, and it's not a deal breaker if it's not certified organic. You and I both use professional healthcare companies where they're proving and making sure that there's no chemicals, there's no pesticides or anything sprayed on the pastures. So you really just have to look into the details of the product that you want. Just because they didn't pay the big bucks to get the USDA certification, it's better if you can find that. But if you don't have it, it's not a deal breaker if you can verify that the stuff hasn't been sprayed, because I assume there could be some potential whey companies out there that market as grass-fed, but still could be chemical
No
sprayed.
way.
Yeah, whey.
I love it. But yeah, a couple of brands. I think you formulated your own. I have my own called True Whey, and we were able to source Argentinian grass-fed whey, high quality without all the hormones and antibiotics in there. And that's the one that I use for myself and my patients.
Yep. And
Which
then
one do you like?
Well, I like the collagen. That's what I want you to talk about, your collagen, because you actually went through a lot of work, more work than people recognize behind the scenes for the collagen. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the difference is when we come up with products, we're looking at, all right, what's the best thing that we're going to take ourselves and our family, number one, and then we're also thinking, and what can we also give that's going to help our patients heal and get better as fast as possible. So we're kind of looking at things from a different spectrum, because when we come out with a product, it's got to be something that we want to take, we want to give to our family, and we want our patients to be able to take, because we need them to get better. We're not selling them a product and then that's it, see you later. Yep. We need to make sure there's a clinical outcome behind it, because we're sitting there and following up, and you got to look in that patient's eyes knowing that you're giving them the best because you want the best results out of it. So one of the collagens we formulated we got it from, I think, Argentina, I should say. It's Argentinian grass-fed meat sourced. And then we were able to source it from that. It was enzymatically processed. The benefit from that is you take collagen, which is typically gelatin, and you're breaking it down to these collagen peptides. You're hydrolyzing it with various water processing and blending processing. That makes it broken down so your body can absorb it at the highest level. So when you have a compromised gut, you can take it into your bloodstream and use it. And typically with collagen, you can put it with any of your proteins. So I'll either mix it in with my pea or my beef or my whey. For my autoimmune patients, we'll use the pea typically, and we'll mix it in. And the collagen provides a high amount of glycine, which is great for the gut lining, and also a high amount for detoxification. And it provides a lot of building blocks, hydroxyproline, proline, hyaluronic acid for the skin and for the integrity of the joints, the tissue, the gut lining, the nails, the bones as well.
Talk about, I guess we don't have to say names, but there are companies out there that will sacrifice quality of their supplements because they aren't working with people. So it's just like, here's your supplement. Thank you. Have a nice day. And this is being done in our little tight-knit community.
Yeah, I won't put, specifics out there, but there are some collagen products that are coming from Tyson chickens. They buy them from the major, the big Tyson chicken company out there, and they use their cartilage to make the collagen. And again, Tyson, right? Your factory farmed antibiotic hormone type of, CAFO operation going there, and that kind of passes into the amino acids in the protein. So we make sure that we, source the highest quality stuff, because we got to heal the leaky gut. We got to provide the healing nutrients to get a really optimal clinical outcome.
Yeah. So just a note here. If a sales page looks good, or if a company is just 90% marketing and then here's a handful of products that exist to go along with that marketing, it's not to say it's a bad product. You all know I've worked for several supplement companies behind the scenes. And so I can tell you this, that you have to really pay attention to the quality, and you really have to look at their sources. Maybe you and I are on the far end of the spectrum, but I want to be at the top 1% of health. And you and I both want our patients to be at the top 1% of health. And I don't want anybody to settle for less. So maybe the price point will be a little bit higher, but if you can ensure that you are getting the best, then I can sleep at night knowing that.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I want to make sure we get good clinical outcomes. So the collagen can be mixed in with the whey. It can be mixed in with the pea. So on that next route, we have our autoimmune patients, and we'll use some of the pea proteins that are unsweetened, unflavored, because even some stevia and xylitol may cause problems. So pea can be great. Sometimes it causes bloating in people that may have some FODMAP issues. So pea's a pretty good generic one that we add in, and we'll mix the collagen. Sometimes collagen's just great as a standalone if people are really, really hypoallergenic because it's hydrolyzed, it's broken down, it's easy to process. So we have the whey, which is great if you don't have an autoimmune condition or you're feeling better. Number 2 we have is the beef. I didn't mention the beef. Beef comes from the actual beef tissue, so it's not quite the collagen type. It's a different type of the piece of the cow, which is great, and that's comes from a trademark called Hydro Beef, and we use that in our clinic as well. It's called True Paleo. That's a great one. It's got flavor to it. This morning I did the collagen and the beef, and I like the chocolate and the vanilla, and we'll go back and forth on those. That's nice. It's got a little bit of stevia in there, so we'll try to avoid that in patients that have gut issues off the bat, and we'll go to the pea, or we'll go just to the pea and collagen, or just the collagen by itself. Pea's still good. It still has a decent sulfur amino acid profile. It's not something we get exposed to frequently in our diet, so we tend to be able to handle it. And people think, well, isn't pea a legume? Yes, but the carbohydrate portion of that pea is removed, so you're only getting the protein portion. So a lot of the potential gut irritating compounds in the various lectins tend to be removed in that carbohydrate portion.
Yeah, let's talk about hemp too. I've tried hemp protein. I think it's a cross-reactive for me. It's in that category of cross-reactive foods for gluten. I think my body believes that it's gluten because it generally tears my stomach up if I do it. So I've had hemp protein bars. I actually had a company that they sent me a box of protein bars. They were hemp-based bars, and it destroyed my gut. Same thing with hemp protein. So for some people, maybe you can do it. There is some good amino acid profile in hemp, and I'm a huge proponent of hemp, all the great things it can do for the environment, the world, textiles, cars, etc.
Yes.
However, for me, it doesn't work as a food source, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you got to always just test it out and see what works for you. That's the biggest thing. With hemp, I've tried it a little bit. It's okay. I mean, I just do better with other ones, and I liked how I feel with other ones. I don't get those negative reactions that you get, so to speak, but I just feel a little bit better on the other ones.
Yeah, and there's some good organic, low-priced hemp proteins out there available.
I could think of Sun Warrior. Sun Warrior makes one that's pretty decent as well.
I think there's one, maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's one called Manitoba out there that had, or maybe it was Nutiva that had it, and they had a relatively low-priced organic hemp. So try it out, experiment. That's what this is all about.
So let's kind of go back and recap. My number one, like let's say you're not sick, you're pretty good, you're pretty healthy. High quality grass-fed whey protein is great. Number 2 is a high quality beef protein. That's coming from more of the muscle meat portion of the beef. So good quality grass-fed beef. Next for me is going to be a pea protein. I use that more for my autoimmune patients, especially unflavored. And then we have collagen. Collagen's like the foundational piece because it can be combined with all of these proteins. That's the beauty of it. You can even use it in your coffee in the morning. So I like it for the benefits, like I mentioned, bone, skin, hair, nails, and gut lining. I just did a video on collagen today, so look for that for a more in-depth review on that. So you kind of have our hierarchy of whey, beef, and pea, and then collagen's kind of like your switch hitter. It can come in there, or your pinch hitter. It can kind of come in there and do its job and help support and provide extra amino acid support to fill in the gaps with that.
Nice, well said. And then I'll finish out just by saying if you have issues with your hair, skin, nails, and you think there is something going on, that it is important to always work back to that root cause. This is sort of the supplement, if you will, to treat the issues of amino acid insufficiency. But as long as you're working backward to figure out why is that happening in the first place, is it stress? Is it because you're scrolling on Facebook while you're eating your meal at the same time? Is it because you're stressed out, you're arguing over the dinner table? Is it because you're just not even chewing your food well? Is it because you have low stomach acid? You may have H. pylori. Is it because you have infections? Figure all that stuff out, and then you can continue to use this stuff when you're healthy, but just making sure that you're not just, I don't even know, what's the analogy there, Justin? Like you're just filling something in just because, but you're just treating the symptom, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. Yep. You're just treating the symptoms. And just to kind of add one more layer on top of that, some people, they've made these changes. They're switching to a paleo template or an AIP template, and they're a little overwhelmed, right? They're making all these changes. They're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Sometimes a really good shake can help just mix things up, and it's also easy. So people that are stressed in the morning, that haven't quite got enough time in their schedule in the morning because of their commute or because of whatever is going on in their life, a good shake can be great because it's already broken down. It's easy to absorb, so that stress won't affect the digestion as much. But it's also simple, easy, and different. You can throw in some coconut milk, maybe a handful of low glycemic berries. If you can do an egg in there or a scoop of almond butter. If not, that's fine. Throw in a scoop of collagen or a scoop of pea or whey protein. Then you got a really good, nice, full, amino acid, full fat drink that you can consume pretty fast, and it's easy to digest.
Yep. I wanted to get your take on this. So one of my friends, and you know Nora as well, Nora Gaudas,
Yep.
she posted something on Twitter, and she said a fruit smoothie is the virtual equivalent of freebasing fructose, which is a rapid and pronounced way to cause glycation damage. Now, if that were like pineapple, mangoes, etc., really high sugar fruits, I would agree. And if it were juiced, like a juiced fruit smoothie, I would agree, where it's just straight juice and no fiber. But if it's blueberries, I really don't think that saying would really apply, because typically you're going to have all the fiber attached. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm on the same benefit and the same kind of mindset as you there. You're going to have all the modified citrus pectin, the MCP, still intact. You're not juicing it. Number one, right? So the fiber is still intact. Number two, you're not using the higher tropical fruits.
Yeah, and so I do try to blend stuff relatively quickly too, because I know there is likely some damage done the more and longer and higher speed you blend stuff. So if I leave mine a little bit chunky and there's some blueberry chunks in there, I enjoy that. And maybe it's just placebo, but I would suggest that may preserve some of the benefits.
Absolutely. Oh, and there's one last piece I forgot to mention, and we do this a lot with our organic acid people, but some people that have really bad autoimmune or leaky gut stuff or malabsorption will even use something called free-form amino acids. I forgot to mention this. You get a lot of that in the collagen too, but with the free forms, we'll use it in a pill form. It's basically amino acids that are already broken down, basically ready to go in your bloodstream. There's virtually no breakdown. So when you, like I mentioned, you eat beef, right? That's the pearl necklace. It gets broken down to the individual pearls. But then even that, there's a little bit more work the body has to do, even if you take a pea or a beef or a whey protein. But when you do a free-form amino, it's basically ready to go. So people that have severe digestive issues or severe malabsorption, let's say we see low BUN or low creatinine or abnormal globulin or albumin on their blood work, we'll give them some extra free-form amino acids in capsule form to make it really easy on their digestive system.
Yep.
So that's kind of the hierarchy. Yeah. Any comments on that?
No, I did it in a video. That's actually one of the most popular videos I did, was on amino acids. I love them. And if people haven't, they could pick up Julia Ross's book, The Mood Cure, or the newer one, The Diet Cure. And those are awesome. That if you want further reading on aminos, that could be a great place to start.
Oh, yeah. And don't get fooled by the new ploy of a lot of the food companies. They're using aspartame now, and it's now relabeled as amino sweet. So if we're talking about all these amino acids here and you're getting all amino jazz like we are, don't fall for the prey of amino sweet. That is aspartame.
I thought they just renamed it to Neotame. Now they even changed it from Neotame, or I wonder if they're using both of those names. Because kind of like
both.
I bet they are, because like MSG, you'll see like the hydrolyzed soy protein, and like there's like 50 names for MSG at this point.
Oh, yeah. Same with Splenda. You have Splenda, but then you also have sucralose, which sounds like sucrose, which is actual sugar. That's table sugar, right? So they're kind of really shady when it comes to how they're naming things. They're really trying to deceive you.
Yep. So become an avid ingredient reader. I'm sure you are. This is old news, but you're doing great. Thanks for listening. Awesome.
Thanks, everyone. If you want to support the show, feel free and check out Evan's store or my store. We have formulated our own amino acid compounds and products to help our patients get better. And if you want to take advantage of them too, feel free and click below the link. And also, sharing is caring. So give us a 5-star review or whatever you think we deserve. And we appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Yes, we do. Take care.
Take care, Evan.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.